Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Broadcasting Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you for joining us today. This is Educational Podcasting Today, the podcast that helps you learn how to not only use podcasts in your classroom, but create them as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. There's, of course, several great ways that you can reach out to us and find us and be a member of our community here. You can, of course, find us on Twitter at TeacherCast. Leave us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail. Email us at feedback@teachercast.net. And, of course, we love it when you subscribe to our audio and video shows over on teachercast.net/iTunes and teachercast.net/YouTube. And, of course, I hope everybody's enjoying the brand new 2016. I'm having a great time today. And today we're going to be answering a question that I get often. The question is, how can we record audio and stream it live? You see, I get a question often of how do we do morning announcements? How do we have a great system where no matter what device we're on, we can record audio, perhaps even broadcast it live, and then keep it so that way we can be seen in our school and our parents. I have a great solution. That solution is called Spreaker Radio. And from Spreaker, I have a good friend of ours. You've seen him on the program before, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Rob, welcome to the program. How are you today?
It's great to be here, Jeff. It's always fantastic to speak to educators. Both my parents were teachers, so I definitely grew up in that environment, and I definitely love school. So it's great.
Well, there's a lot of great things happening in education. You know, this whole concept of podcasting and audio recording is not only getting easier, it's getting cheaper. And there's so many schools out there right now that are trying to figure out how to do morning announcements, how to do live stuff, how to take that sporting event, that orchestra band concert, and really produce something that is kind of professional quality for their community. And you're saying you have a great solution today. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I just wanted to, just share some capabilities that Spreaker has that can maybe make it easy for, a school or a teacher or a sports team to actually do a live stream into becoming a podcast. There's the tools that Spreaker has. We actually have recording software that's free and that can be used on iOS, Android, and Windows and Mac computers that basically will enable you to record and do some post-production on it if you want to, or you can just do it live and have that live show or that live broadcast that you're doing stream and then automatically drop into a podcast feed that can be available in a place like iTunes or Stitcher or other on-demand kind of playback platforms as well. So it's a really compelling platform. It's one of the reasons that I came to Spreaker to work on Spreaker is the fact that I saw those convergence of kind of more radio-like practices converging with on-demand, which is what we've seen happen with television and movies and things like that, where things have become more on demand, and now that's happening with audio now.
And it's an important thing that we need to address here, because many times when people ask me, how do I do this as a morning announcement type thing, instead of telling them ways to do it, we end up having conversations about time. And do you want to do things pre-recorded? Do you want to do this the night before? Do you want to make a script? Do you want to... And the neat thing that I know about Spreaker is it's very, very easy to set up. And if you want, you can record right into your device. Or if you need to, you can also hook up extra equipment such as a microphone to your devices. Tell us a little bit about some of the applications here for use and some of the equipment that would be recommended. If you were an elementary school, maybe let's start with elementary middle school here. Would there be any suggestions that you have as far as inexpensive microphones that might be Apple-based, Windows-based? What would you recommend for, an elementary middle school setup microphone-wise?
Yeah, I think that the one that's really gotten very popular in the podcasting space right now is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. And that microphone has the ability, and this is getting into a little bit of a technical topic here, but it's a USB-based mic as well as what's called an XLR capable mic, which means that you could use this microphone with a mixer, or you can just plug it directly into your laptop via a USB port. And it's actually very, very simple and easy to use. The microphone will be recognized by the computer that you're using. Spreaker does have a desktop recording software and live streaming software that's very easy to use that works with USB microphones. So you can just plug your microphone directly into your laptop or your tablet or whatever, if you're using a Surface computer or something like that, you can plug right into the USB port, and you're basically able to do live streaming or recording right through that. Now the new Spreaker Studio for desktop software, which is free, there's no charge to it, does have the capability of up to 4 USB microphones going into it at one time. So they have the ability through like a USB hub, so you can plug in multiple USB connections into one hub and have that go into one USB port in a laptop. You could have up to 4 microphones or 3 mics, plus you could even take in a Skype caller as well directly into the actual software. So it's very powerful. It only really requires you to have a laptop and whatever microphones that you have. There's really no other expense to it. It's actually, and the ATR 2100 usually retails for about between $40 and $59.
Mm-hmm. And I know that this particular mic that I'm using here is the AT 2005 USB. Same exact microphone, different color, a little bit different of a setup, but those are certainly 2 mics. And I want to share with you something that I picked up this holiday season, and it is really an inexpensive, hold this up to the camera here, it's an inexpensive lav mic system. And it comes with a little clip. I put it right here, and so when I'm doing my remotes, or even if I wasn't in elementary or middle school, I can use this. This was less than $60, and it plugs right into your headphone jack. And it does work for iPhones, iPads, and even those schools out there that are using Chromebooks. It's perfect for.
Yeah, and if you want to record directly into the Spreaker software, we have free applications, free apps for iOS and Android that will do exactly what you just said, either live streaming or just recording and then publishing later. So you can export that audio file if you want to do some editing on it or something like that before you push it actually into your podcast feed. You can do all that. So really, I mean, if you have an iPhone or an iPad or something like that, you're basically have most of the equipment that you need to do this.
Rob, I know you've been podcasting for a while. You've been kind of in the radio business, and you got yourself started a while ago. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I started back in 1999. I did a radio show in a small radio station. I came in, and the show that I did back then was called Web Talk Guys, and it was basically a show talking about the web and the internet back in the early days during the later stages of the .com boom that then later crashed. But I kept doing that show for about 6 years after that, and took it out to national syndication and up on the XM satellite radio network for a couple of years, and then stopped doing it about the time that podcasting kind of really hit the mainstream. I actually had the first radio show that became a podcast back in 2004, and then I stopped doing it and started working professionally for companies that were building platforms for this stuff, because I took a lot of the experience that I had in building a widely distributed radio show and podcast, and took that knowledge over to help other media creators to syndicate and build their shows, and that's continued. I used to work for a company called Microsoft. I used to run the podcasting platform for Microsoft for 6 years, and then I also was the CTO of Podcast One, which is a major podcast platform network right now, that's based out of Los Angeles. So, and now I'm with Spreaker, so kind of doing the same things.
And have you noticed over the last couple years, I mean, obviously we're talking education here, have you seen a growth in educational podcasting, or has it just been a recent thing? I mean, we've been doing this for 5 years or so now. When did you see the podcast bubble start to happen?
Well, it's happened all along, actually. Even back in 2004 when it started, it certainly wasn't huge back then. It was something new. it's just steadily grown larger and larger each year. It hasn't been a hockey stick kind of growth. It's just been steady. And what we're starting to see is a gradual erosion of listening to broadcast radio. So, these pathways of podcasting on demand audio are kind of following in a parallel track to radio's decline. So as podcasting grows, radio is declining, and they're kind of growing and declining at the same appropriate rate. So at some point down the line, these two mediums are going to converge on each other, and it's going to be a really, really interesting time to see how that blend happens. But it's been an interesting journey for the 11 years that podcasting has been around, and I believe that we're just kind of at the midpoint of the development of this medium. And the educational sector has always been a huge presence in the podcasting space, because one of the biggest content areas for podcasting has always been is kind of this, people that want to learn things new, or shows that are about a specific kind of area that a person wants to learn more about. So like there's golf shows, or there's shows about microbiology, there's shows about being a nurse, there's shows about being a teacher, right? Teaching technology. There's shows about, educational podcasting, just like what you're doing here. So it's a great medium for helping people learn something new. And I think that's really been at the forefront of what this medium has been all about since day one, really.
You're talking about that merging between, radio and the podcasting world. And I always think of what are we using right now as the current definition for the word podcast? I mean, it used to be iPod and broadcast, but now you take any radio station that's out there, they're taking a segment of their show, putting it on iTunes, and they're calling it a podcast. Is it really? And even with teachers, we sometimes take our presentations, we take our lessons, we take, we make a screencast, and because we're putting that on video, we're now using the word podcast. Or teachers say,
it's okay. Yeah, I think it's okay. I mean, I think there needs to be a term that's used to describe this stuff. And I think, unfortunately, the alternatives is calling it radio, and I think that's kind of confusing. Now, granted, you can draw some analogies to what is currently happening with television. You could say that this medium could develop into being called radio, right? Mm-hmm. It's just that the next generation will look at radio as meaning something different,
right?
But we need to have a transition phrase or a term that makes it different than radio, because it is a different medium. It's not the same thing as radio, though they both carry a lot of common characteristics. As you know, they're all spoken word, they're all about sharing content, they're all about telling stories. Those are consistent across those two media types, but that's kind of where the consistency of across those media types really kind of falls away, is that it's a completely different medium. It's duration is not an issue. Ad formats are different. The types of content that you see in podcast versus radio are dramatically different. And it's more of a every person's medium too, where broadcast is an exclusive club, right? It's a club for big studios, big production, and it's not really necessarily as grassroots. The radio side is just not a YouTube, which podcasting is more like YouTube than it is radio.
That's interesting. Why do you say that?
Because I think it's content comes from all sorts of sources, and just like you and I mean, we're talking about this topic. This is not the type of content that you would see or hear on broadcast radio. It just I just don't believe that there would be a place for it, because it doesn't have that tune in, tune out appeal that the broadcast radio networks and the broadcast radio stations want to have. And it's not local content either, which is what is driving a lot of broadcast radio's revenue today, is local content, news, traffic, sports.
Well, let's get back to that local content area, and in terms of a school or a school building looking to put on a podcast, a radio show, getting back to that morning announcements. What advice do you give teachers, or what advice would you give young students who want to get into this field. You know, maybe it's their first time holding a microphone. Maybe you notice that a kid is amazing out in the play yard and in class, but then you put a camera in front of them and they shy up. What advice do you give anybody who's really, really starting out on this?
I think that the big thing to really think about as you're thinking about maybe getting involved in this is this is not a broadcast medium. I think a lot of people have this thought that they have to have a radio voice and they have to be, you know, the Casey Kasem or the Howard Stern, or they have to be of that type of caliber of communicator. And I just don't think that you have to be successful as an on-demand audio creator or podcaster. I think that it's you just need to be who you are and be passionate about what you're talking about and what you're wanting to communicate to listeners, and engage with them and be a participant in your listeners' lives, and ask for their participation and engage with them at all points in your, you know, as part of your podcast or as part of your online presence in support of your podcast. I mean, it's a completely different kind of thing. It's actually a lot like what most people do today with Facebook or whatever. It's an interactive medium. And I think that's the big thing to think about. And don't be so concerned about you have to sound a certain way, or you have to do it a certain way, or you have to be a certain duration. Make the show that you're passionate about and do it in a way that is personal and makes it authentic. I think that's one of the key things that is very important to any new podcaster, is to have fun and just be who you are.
And I love that term of being authentic. You know, I see a lot of schools out there doing apps like Spreaker, like TouchCast, like iMovie trailers, just anything that's going to take their school, take their students, and really showcase what they're all about, to create that identity. And for school districts to be able to come up with a concept, come up with an idea, but more importantly, have a way to distribute that. That is what Spreaker is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we have listening apps, but yet our platform is very compatible with iTunes and SoundCloud and Twitter and Facebook and all these other distribution platforms. You know, platforms like Stitcher. Soon to be the Google Play Store is going to have podcasting, and that's all open to podcasters. So you'll be able to get your podcast into the Google Play properties. There's just a growing number of listening platforms that are developing out there, and Spreaker basically would give you all the tools that you need to widely distribute your show, as well as get listeners through the Spreaker apps on iOS, Android, and on the web, and even Windows phones. So there's about 5 to 6 million Spreaker users today that are listeners. And so it's a pretty large platform, you know, as part of itself. But it just pales in comparison to how many people are on, you know, are using iPhones or iPads to listen to podcasts. We're talking hundreds of millions of people.
We're here with Rob Greenlee from Spreaker Radio. And Rob, why don't you give us a tour of the Spreaker studio for their desktop computer? Okay.
Yeah. It's actually a free software download off of Spreaker.com. And basically what you're looking at here is an application that installs on your Windows laptop or PC, or your Macintosh computer. It can be on any Mac that you have. It should run fine. But what this is a free application that will enable you to do a variety of different things with your audio. It's a very powerful application. It actually will allow you to I'll click the start button. So when you're ready to start streaming, you just click the start button, and what it will do is it'll show you 3 options. You can actually go live. You can do actually a 24/7 live stream. So you can create almost like a radio station here if you wanted to, or you can click offline, and that's basically just to record an episode. So those are the 3 core functions of the application. What you can do in the application. So we actually have 4 areas in the software itself. We have playlists, so you can actually upload a list of various episodes, and you could create like a playback of a back-to-back show episodes into a live stream. So you have that ability here as well. There's also the ability to upload a track or a song, or just some audio clip or something like that into the software here, and to play it during your live stream or your recording. So all that capability is right here as well. And you can also do sound effects. So you can embed all sorts of different sound effects in here. So like like a crowd clapping at the beginning of your show, or you can play audio, like an intro, those kind of things at the beginning of your show. So all that stuff is kind of like built in. This is almost like a radio production studio right on your desktop. And then it also has a built-in capability for seeing chat as well. So as people are listening to your live stream, you can see their questions or your comments actually right in the software. So this software has the ability to pull in multiple sources. So if I go into preferences here, I can show you that the console basically allows you to pull in. As you can see here, there's up to 4 sources. Those are 4 like USB microphones that can be plugged into the software via your computer, and to pull them in. So I can't actually show you too much on that, but there's this drop down that I'm showing you here, what will enable you to turn on each of those microphones. And then you can have some volume control right here, and this button right here to throttle the volume up and down. And then it also has an output area too that you can listen in your headphones. So it has all the capability. Plus it does have the ability to connect up with a Skype application as well. So you have that ability in here as well. It doesn't look like there's no visibility of that. So, but it does actually, as you can see on the far left, it says connect to Skype. So that enables you to connect to a separate client for Skype in the software as well. So you can take a Skype caller.
It's neat, Rob, that you can use this in a simple setting such as an elementary school, but you really do have those higher end options if you do have, say, a broadcasting class, a radio class, or even like a high school film club. You can make use of this software and really reach out and build that community to share what's going on in your school district.
Yeah, exactly. And it's free. There's no cost to this. And I wanted to show you really quick here, as you do recordings, this is the area that you would pick up your actually recordings here, and you can export them or publish them, or you can delete them. So let's say you have an episode that you don't like, you can get rid of it. You can record a new one. It gives you all that capability right here, or you can publish it directly into your account in Spreaker.
And this, you said, can go into Spreaker. Can it export to any other CDNs, or is it just up into a Spreaker account? And is that account free?
Yeah, we do have a free account with Spreaker. It's called the free speech plan, and that gives you a certain amount of storage capacity. It also enables you to do some live streaming up to 30 minutes. So that's on a per session basis. It's not like a monthly allocation. It's like per time that you do it. It's only up to 30 minutes. So you could do a 30-minute show easily on the free account. But the paid accounts are based more on, audio storage. So like as you produce more and more content, you're going to need to have probably a paid plan if you're producing a lot of content. So anyway, but no, you don't actually have to use the Spreaker hosting to use this software. If you just export your audio recordings right here, you can make those available on any other hosting platform that you want, or through like a Dropbox or anything like that. You could conceivably publish that in any way you want to. So you could conceivably just use the software to do your recordings.
Rob, it's a great solution. Again, any type of school district that's out there looking to get into audio recording, audio publishing, it's great. One of the questions that is going to come up when it comes to any kind of storage solution is the question about analytics. Does Spreaker have a way to share with you how many people listen, download, where are they getting it? What kind of options are available there?
Yeah, so with each account, we do have download and play analytics. Now, one thing that's a little different about Spreaker compared to a lot of other podcast hosting platforms is that we do use live streaming servers, which is a little different than a lot of the other podcast hosting platforms where we can track actual plays in live stream like radio, like a online radio distribution platform, as well as downloads. So we have both. So as you look at it, and I could do a screen share of an example of our analytics if you wanted to do that, Jeff.
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, so I'm pulled up the Spreaker website, and so what you're seeing here is an account. It's actually the Spreaker Live Show account on Spreaker that gives you access to stats on playback, right? So, I mean, everybody wants to know how many people listen or download. So as you can see at the top up here, we have, plays, which is streaming plays, and then we also have downloads. So those actually are separate numbers and likes, so people that like to listen to your show, and followers. So we have a little bit of a social network that's involved in the Spreaker platform as well, so that tracks that. So those 5 million users of the Spreaker platform can follow your show. So, and that's the count there. So you can see down here, we're tracking basically on demand plays, live streams, as well as downloads. So you have kind of a breakdown of all that stuff here, and then likes as well. So you can see your pattern of likes, your sources. So as you look at all the different devices and platforms that are accessing your show, you can see them all. So you can see, the Spreaker website, Android, iPhone, iTunes, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, Twitter, the iHeartRadio folks, which we have a special relationship with. So your program could get on iHeartRadio. So Zune is still showing some playback, and Sonos and off of various websites out there are actually available for you to see where the activity is for your program. So let's go up to the top again. So there's also geolocation. So what countries and top cities are consuming your program. So, and then, if you have more than one show, which you can also set up in Spreaker too. So it's possible to have more than one actual podcast that's part of your account. So, and let's scroll up, and then demographics. So we have age, male and female breakdowns that you can also get access to in here too. So that's basically the package for stats around.
And that's really comprehensive. I mean, anybody who takes a basic podcast, puts it into iTunes, does not get those statistics. That's really, really amazing. Rob, it really does seem like Spreaker is one of the best solutions out there for any school district that's looking to create great content, publish it out there to anywhere that they need to, but more importantly, create it as simple and as quickly as possible. Please tell us one more time, where can we find out more information and get started with Spreaker?
Yeah, it's really simple. Just go to Spreaker.com, and that's Spreaker with an R, and just go to our plans page and sign up for our free speech plan. That's free, and that'll get you started. You can become part of the platform. You can kind of learn how it works. Maybe create some cover art, some album art for a new show. I think it's really, really important that you create that kind of stuff. And it's in the minimum size is about 1400 pixels by 1400 pixels. So if you can create something like that before you get in and create an account, it'll actually make the process, I think, a little bit more rewarding for you. It's actually one of the first things that people see with your show is your cover art. So
Absolutely.
And basically, what cover art is basically just a square image that represents whatever show that you're doing.
And, we're going to be doing a whole show coming up soon on, podcasting cover art and just how important is it that you need to create something. We talk about this a lot. You have to create something that is a huge square, at least 1,400. I think what iTunes says they recommend, 3,000 by 3,000, somewhere in there. But
that's
also
the ideal. That's the maximum end of the spectrum, right?
But it also has to look good at a thumbnail size on an iPhone.
75 by 75.
And so it's, I'm very, very interested in getting people's opinions as we go through the next couple of weeks here on podcast album art. There's some great stuff out there that looks amazing, but when you shrink it down to that 75 by 75, you can't read it. So
yeah, I think it's the simple phrase to describe what you need is that the text in your cover art needs to be bold. Bold and large.
I certainly agree to that one. Rob, where else can we find you? I know you still do some podcasting here and there, right? What other shows can we find you on?
I do two shows. I do one for Spreaker called the Spreaker Live Show, and it actually airs live on Spreaker every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Matter of fact, I just got done doing it just a couple of hours ago. And then I also do a live video and audio podcast called the New Media Show at newmediashow.com with a great co-host, Todd Cochran, who runs another podcasting platform called Raw Voice Blueberry, and he's the creator of the PowerPress plugin for podcasting for WordPress. So we've been talking about the podcasting industry for many, many years on that show, and it's in iTunes and all the places. So I do two live shows a week. So it's actually, if you go to SpreakerLiveShow.com, you can get access to that one. And I do one-on-one conversations with other podcasters. And Jeff, I should get you on that show too.
Would love to.
To talk about your setup, your studio, how you do what you do, what you're doing that has found you success. That kind of stuff is the theme of the Spreaker Live Show, and then the New Media Show is really more of a topic-based show that's focused on what's happening in the industry of podcasting and on-demand radio and new media.
Nice. And you said that those shows are live on Wednesdays and Saturdays?
Yeah, actually, the New Media Show is live every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or noon Eastern. And then the Spreaker Live Show is live on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Nice. We'll certainly make sure that we have links to that in our show notes over on educationalpodcasting.today as part of the TeacherCast Educational Broadcasting Network. Rob, thank you so much for being on the show. Please, you're more than welcome back on the show at any point in time. I'd love to continue having these conversations with you. You are a wealth of knowledge, and thank you so much for supporting education and educators with great apps such as Spreaker Studio. Well,
thank you for doing all the stuff that you do to help this help the education sector do podcasting. I think it's fantastic, and it's really important that you're doing that to share knowledge is what it's all about.
It really is amazing. And of course, if you are out there looking to create your own podcast or using podcasts in the classroom, you can of course get in touch with us. We're over on Twitter at TeacherCast, or you can leave a voicemail over at teachercast.net/voicemail. Maybe ask a question. It is shows like this that came out of questions that our audience has had and brought with us. If you don't want to leave a voicemail, you can always email us at feedback@teachercast.net. And of course, if you enjoyed this program, please take a moment over on our iTunes and YouTube channels to leave us a 5-star rating and some great reviews. We love it when you do. And if you do, we'll have a chance to mention you on the show. We love giving some love and some props to our users. That's over at teachercast.net/iTunes and teachercast.net/YouTube. Again, I hope everyone's enjoying their 2016. Thank you so much for supporting the TeacherCast Educational Broadcasting Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Until next time, keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.